Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm gamesplaining Crystal Palace. So the game of Crystal Palace is a 2 to 5 player game. It came out in 2019. I really like it. I think it's a wonderful game to play. The setting up and the getting it to the table is a totally different story. I read the rules on this a number of times before I actually got it to the table. I set it up a couple of times before I actually played it. Once it's playing, it actually plays relatively straightforward, but understanding what you're doing is fairly tricky. Simply because there are 8 different locations that go onto the table, and it's not just one board, it's 8 little boards. And the reason for that is so that you can have different sides of the board for different player counts. And I really appreciate that. I actually do like that. But in setting it up, it actually makes it feel like a vastly more complex game than it is. The whole idea is you have dice, you do not roll the dice. I like that. The dice are just saying this is the strength at which my workers are working. But it's also going to cost you to hire those dice. You're putting those dice then out into locations, and some of them will give you a bonus action when you put the thing out. Some of them will cost you money to put the die out. Then, once everyone's put all their dice out, you are going to the highest die, and to the left, so if there's 2 5s, the one on the left is the one that's going to get it. Which also means, by the way, that if you've gone to a spot that said you need a minimum of 4 showing on your die to use this spot, and you put a 4 down, and the next person who only needed a minimum of 2 could have gone in with a 5, which means they're going to get to do it before you. And doing it early is usually a better way to go with this game, because the first couple of spots will give you some benefits or some bonuses by taking them, and you also have a better choice over what's on the board to what you can do. The essence of the game is trying to build some prototypes or get prototypes and turn them into actual products. Get the inventors of those products, because you'll get more points if you have the inventor of the product when you build the product. Or if you have the product when you hire the inventor, you'll get some more points. And so there's a real funky kind of push-pull on, which cards do I actually need? No, you can play the entire game without really getting any inventors. And I think there's probably a way to play that does that. I personally thought, no, I need to get inventors, I need to get products, so I work towards getting those cards. But there's all these other spots and spaces. Now, in order to get any of those cards, you need to have gears and light bulbs. And they're a little bit harder to come by. And so there's this whole push and pull. And the whole thing of it is, if you don't have enough stuff, you can purchase the gears or the light bulbs that you need. But that's going to cost you 4 or 5 money. And money gets super tight. Not so much on the first round. If you watch the videos, you'll see that it's actually not real tight at the beginning. But there's an income that you're getting, and that reduces by 3 each time. So you need to kind of keep pushing that up. If you don't push that up, you're going to end up spending more money. And the money runs out really quickly. What happens when the money runs out? I'm glad you asked. There are loans. So if you need to do something that costs you money and you don't have enough money, you must take a loan for 10 money. And that's going to give you some negative points at the end of the game. You're trying to cover up all these spots, and you really don't want to cover them up with loans, by the way. But if you've filled them all up, you can only get rid of the non-loan things to be able to put more stuff in there. And there's a bit of a tension. I haven't actually come across I've got it all full kind of aspect of the game yet, but I'm assuming that with playing with more players, you'll probably fill that up. You'll be more likely to fill that up probably than on the smaller player count games, because there's more available to be able to fill that up. And when you're not limited to, I can only put one guy onto each board. You can put as many guys onto the board as are able to go onto the board, as you have the numbers for in the dice. I really like it. There's a lot of thinking going on. And I do wonder if that's actually the downfall of this game, is there's a heck of a lot of thinking of, okay, what numbers do I need to put on my dice so that I can outbid, in essence, the other players? Or so that I can at least have a high enough number showing to be able to get the spots that I need. And then what is my personal board pushing towards? Because there's a little area down the left-hand side of your personal board that shows something different for everyone's personal board. So if you are looking for, in prototypes, there's going to be a picture of the cards. And you need to get a whole bunch of them, 3 or 4 of them, to get the full amount of points. But you need to also use the free actions, I guess, the little head actions to push that token forward. So if you've got 4 of them, which will give you 7 points, but you haven't pushed the token forward, you're not going to get the 7 points. There's newspaper stuff, and each time you move forward on the newspapers, it gives you a better ability to do stuff. You can gain more dice. May I just say, in the rules, now I may have misread, but I did read over it a few times, but I didn't find anywhere saying that you start with this many dice. I found a picture which showed 4 dice, but I never found anything saying have 4 dice to start with. So just bear that in mind. If I've got the wrong number of dice on the video, please let me know. I would really love to know what the official ruling on that is. I'm assuming it's 4 dice. If I have misread or not seen the spot in the rulebook where it says that how many it is, please comment below. Let me know. I'm really open to those comments. Someone made a whole bunch of comments on one of my videos that I made like a month ago, and someone made a whole bunch of comments on one I made last week, and there's things to fix and things that I hadn't noticed, and that's fine. I'm happy with that. I would much prefer that if you notice a mistake in my rules videos, that you make a comment to say, hey, this is an error, this is the page of the rulebook to look at, to fix it up, so that people who are watching it can see in the comments real early on, this is an issue. Okay, make sure we take that on board. So please keep doing that. Please, please, please. Obviously, if I've got the rules right, then that's great, and I would prefer to have the rules right for you so we don't have to go through that. But if that's part of the pace, then that's what we need to do. There are a couple of boards on this game, so the little sections on this game, that are very easily overlooked, but I actually think there's a fair amount of importance in it, depending on what you're trying to do. There are some that will just get you little cards, and they give you some bonuses, and they put them on those negatives I was talking about before, and they suddenly, you don't have negatives on them anymore. They could be giving you ongoing stuff. Every round you'll get this. There are other spots that you could go to, but they're not really pushing forward, but they're setting you up. So one of them gets you another couple of gears, or could get you another die. Really important to watch out for those ones. Or could get you points depending on where in the game you're up to and how early you've gone there. But if you take that, you're going to lose the die entirely, and you don't get that back ever. So there's a real, do I want to go for that? There's 9 points. That's relatively large, but I'm not going to have that die. And that, there's a real heaviness on weight on that choice to be made. The order of the spots is actually really important as well, because the last spot gives you light bulbs, but you may have needed to use light bulbs back on one of the earlier spots to hire someone. You can't use them. What you can use them for is to turn the prototypes into products, because there are certain phases that once you've got all the stuff, one of the phases you're going to turn prototypes into products, and that's where you get some really good points as well. There's so much going on with this game. I really appreciate what it does, and I want to play it more. I fear that this just looks really hectic on the table simply because there's so many pieces. If it was just one board, it wouldn't be anywhere near as hectic. But having a whole bunch of little boards, it gets a little bit cramped and a little bit, I don't know where I'm at. So bear that in mind if you're looking at it. Don't be turned off by it. If you've bought it and you put it on the table and you go, just watch the video. Get a feel for it. It actually plays relatively easily once you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, it's hectic. But even then, the vast majority of the rules is actually saying what this spot does, what this spot does, what this spot does, etc. all the way around. There's also a section in the middle called the black market, and what you're enabling you to do is you can go to the black market and sit there, and there's actions that will kind of give you the benefit that's sitting next to you, or you can pay to move up higher, and you're always taking the lowest available spot. If you're moving up higher, it's obviously going to be a lowest available spot above where you're currently at, but the lowest available spot. And so what ends up happening at the end of the first round, everything in the black market moves down. If you're on the bottom, you're falling off that black market, so you're not going to get those bonuses again. So getting up a little bit higher is actually a worthwhile thing. And there's points on that for at the end of the game, whoever's at the highest is going to get the most points. And there's a track over here, whoever's the highest on this track is going to get the most points. There's so much different stuff going on, and so many choices within that different stuff going on, that it makes it really tricky to kind of think about. And the box says it's like an hour and a half game. I suggest that it's probably going to go substantially longer, simply because of these choices. This, oh, what do I do now? As soon as you get that thought process going with any of the players, it's going to slow the game down. While this should be a relatively quickly moving game, there is a fair amount of thinking to go into it. So look, bear that all in mind when you have a look at this game, and see if you like it, see if it's a game that sits really nicely in your wheelhouse. It's a game that I think that I really appreciate having now that I've played it. Until I played it, I was like, I don't know what to do with that. So look, I'll leave it there. Please go ahead and watch my Gamesplay and Gamesplanation. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you have any games that you would like to be Gamesplaned, please shoot me an email to thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter @thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.